To do April 14th. Look, now Alice Walker in her poem says, gather to see the stillness in the people's broken hearts. And we do have to gather to do that. But this weekend, we are gathering for another purpose. And that is to instill hope in the people's hearts. Because I will tell you, when people stepped out in resistance to the murders of Michael Brown, Eric Garner, Tamir Rice, and so many other people, that put hope into the people's hearts. When they saw thousands of people taking to the streets, when they saw bridges and tunnels and expressways being blocked, it said to people who had been suffering this for the longest kind of time, there are people standing up. Maybe we can get with them. Maybe we can do something about this. It said to people who weren't aware of this that there's some serious problems going on and that they are not isolated incidents or the result of a couple of bad cops. There is a widespread problem of police murdering people, and many of those people joined in the protest and said, I will not stand by while another human being is being murdered like this. And see, these protests were beautiful, powerful, and very necessary. They were very necessary because without us standing up, those murders would have been swept under the rug. That's right. Nobody except the folks in Ferguson, folks who knew him, would have known of Michael Brown and his life. It just would have been a blip in the news. Police murdered a black thug. Well, not police murdered, police killed a black thug. Justifiable homicide, end of discussion. Us standing up made it a question that confronted all of society. That was very important. And frankly, it was beautiful. You know, as somebody who's been struggling against the things that this system does to people here and around the world for longer than most of y'all been alive, it was beautiful to see people standing up. But we got to do April 14th because not everybody liked what we were doing, especially the powers that be and those that stand behind them and their system and the crimes it commits against people. They hated what we were doing. They couldn't wait to get us to stop, to push us out of the street, to suppress our protests. And they've been working at that. You know, they worked at it with mass arrests. They worked at it with targeting people, protesters, for serious crimes. A system that cannot punish killer cops who murder people wantonly, but can pursue protesters with arrests, $75,000 bail, heavy charges. They're telling us something. They want us to stop. They used, when a couple cops got shot in New York, they used that to try to change the story. They wanted us to forget about the cops who murder people, the system that lets them get away with it. And they wanted us to start thinking about the heroic cops who do such a tough job so well. What are some of these cops good at? They're good at murdering black and Latino youth. That's what they're good at. And there is nothing heroic about that, sisters and brothers. Not a damn thing. So we got to do April 14th. And April 14th has got to be a day when thousands and thousands of young people, students at colleges, high schools, young people who are out of school, young people who dropped out of school, young people who got pushed out of school, know that that's the day to act because we have to stop this shit. It's got to be a day that people in cities all across the country gather, like Alice Walker says in her poem, gather to stop business as usual. And we got to stop this business as usual because that business as usual includes the wanton murder of our children. And it's got to stop. That's the kind of day that this has to be. It's got to be recognized around the country and across the world. Now, looking at this problem of police murder is part of a larger problem. It's a genocidal problem. Look at what's going on. Racial profiling, children treated like criminals, guilty until proven innocent, if they can survive to prove their innocence. School to prison pipeline. 2 million people warehoused in prisons across the country, subjected to torturous conditions. 5 million people who have served their sentences, but are treated like less than full human beings. Amen. And then you have the loved ones of all of these people. Because look, you send a brother or a sister to prison, you got kids whose parents are in prison. You got parents whose children are in prison. You got people whose significant other is in prison. You got that whole family grouping living their lives caught up in the web of this criminal injustice system. I call this a slow genocide because that's what it is. Amen. And it's one that could be speeded up at any moment. Yeah. And look, I will just tell you, this is built into the fabric of this capitalist imperialist system. This is not something where if we just got the right person in office, if we elected a black mayor or a black governor or a black congressman or a black president, we could deal with this problem because it's built into the fabric of the system. It is not something where if we got a consent decree from the Department of Justice, if we got a new law passed, new policies put in place, it would deal with this problem. I will tell you, it will take revolution, nothing less, to end this problem once and for all. And I'm a representative of the Revolutionary Communist Party. We are here to fight to make April 14th happen with everybody coming from whatever perspective. But we come at this from the perspective of the need to build a movement for revolution. We don't just sit around and talk about, we're building a movement for revolution. We are preparing the ground, we're preparing people, preparing the vanguard to make revolution and get rid of this horror and all the other horrors that come down. We've got the leadership that's needed for this revolution. We have a strategy for it in terms of fighting the power and preparing, transforming the people for revolution. We have a leader in Bob Avakian who can lead this kind of revolution. And anybody who hates this stuff and wants to see it stop, I urge you to get with the party and with the movement for revolution that it's building. And look, I know revolution ain't for everybody. Whether you're with revolution or not, we all need to stand together to take on this monster of police brutality. It's like Reverend McCory was saying earlier. He's coming at it from a Christian thing. I'm not a Christian, I'm a communist. I'm coming at it from another, but we're together in this. That's something that Cornell West and I found. From our different perspectives, we're together in this. And that's the approach we got to take to people. We can have our discussions, our dialogues, even our debates. But when you're in the face of police murdering our children, the only question to figure out is, how do we stop it? Amen. And April 14th is a very important part of stopping it because we are at a crossroads. Either we're going to go forward, continue this resistance, build on this resistance and take it to a higher level and inspire people who want to see this stop to join us, to open the eyes of more people to this problem that's coming down and to bring them into supporting this, or the authorities are going to get away with pushing us back. That's right. They're going to push us with the hammer of arrests, high charges, high bail, and then they're going to lure us with, why don't you come and discuss a consent decree with us? Why don't you come and discuss a civilian review board? While we're talking about these things, their police will be continuing to murder us. And if they get things back to normal, it will be worse than before, because people whose hearts were open, whose eyes were open, will then get a message of there's nothing you can do about it. It's just going to keep happening, and that's a message I don't want people to get, because we need young people, old people, people in the middle, people of all different nationalities to know that this is wrong and that it must be stopped. This is illegitimate, it is racist, and it is unfair, and it is up to us to stop it. Now, let me talk about what the plan building up to it needs to be. We hand it out to everybody, at least we tried to. What's the plan building up to April? Because it ain't gonna be just a thing of going out and telling people April 14th is the day and you should do something. We do want to let a lot of people know, but we got to do more than that. We have to actually be mobilizing resistance from now up to then. We have to have days of activity nationwide. There's already a day focused around Tamir Rice and some related cases. I believe that's February 22nd. We should take that up, make that as powerful as possible, spread that nationwide. But we also should look at other days, other events that we need to put in place, and we need to talk about that here, because there are many other cases that also need to be taken up, both older cases of people who have been murdered earlier by the police, but also new cases like Dontre Hamilton up in Milwaukee. I believe it was Jordan Baker down in Houston. Ezel Ford out in Los Angeles, many other people. I'm forgetting the brothers, trying to remember the brother's name in Utah. You know, police is murdering black people and Latino people all over the place. There's folks here like Kevin Davis in Atlanta. All of that needs to become part of this nationwide movement of resistance, and we need to set activity around that. We also need to take up some important questions within this, because one thing that often gets put forward is, well, this is a problem of black men being killed by the police. And that is horrible and horrific. And black and Latino men is sometimes how it gets put. But they killed the sisters too. Maria Corneo in Southern California, I believe. Rakia Boyd in Chicago. They just let the cop who murdered Ayanna Stanley Jones get away scot-free, no charges, no jail time, no nothing, you know. So we need to bring that to the forefront, because this really is everybody's problem. We need to do stuff like that. Also, there's going to be an important commemoration of the 50th anniversary of the march in Selma. Now, those people are gathering around a historic struggle against injustice. We need to bring to that this current day struggle against injustice. And an important step that needs to be taken, April 14th, a day of shutting down business as usual to advance the struggle to stop the horror of police murder. We got to do that. We also have to look at other dates, other themes that we need to focus up work around. And as part of doing this, we've got to develop the capacity to do some things. You heard from the Ohio Students Association. They're going to be co-facilitating a working group of students and youth that's going to be, how do we bust this out all across the country, bring college students, spread it to the high schools, into the communities. So be prepared for that. We're going to get into that later on in the afternoon. Get with them on that. But we also need other capacity. We got to do the social media thing. I was talking about folks going out on Twitter. We're going to have a social media team. We need some people to be a part of that. We need people to help spearhead that. Think about that. Talk with me during the lunch about it. We'll have co-facilitators for it in the afternoon. We got to do a regular media thing. We're going to have some people facilitating that, but we need everybody's involvement and energy in these different arenas. We have to take on the repression. If we don't do that, a lot of folks will be like, I like what you're doing, but I ain't going to do it with you because I see how y'all, you know, and I'm one of the ones who ends up in jail a lot behind this stuff. Folks be like, I don't want to end up like you because they locking you up. And first off, you don't have to end up in jail to support the movement, but some people have to do things that carry that risk. But we have to be able to take on that repression and not let it be something that chills people, scares them away from getting with us. So that's an important question that we have to take up. And if we do that, that will actually inspire some people. These people is taking this stuff on, they're trying to stop them, they're trying to do this to them and that to them, and they have figured out how to keep going. And that will inspire people and give them more of a sense of, maybe these people can pull this off. See, and that's the sense that we got to give to people. We also need to do, in addition to social media, we got to get this out in old style media, to just give it a term, you know, TV, radio, newspapers. That media still is important too. We're going to have a working group that's working on that. We got to raise money to do this. Because I said to the students, y'all need to spread this across the country. Well, they might need some money to send some student organizers to different parts of the country. We can't say to them, spread it across the country. Oh, and by the way, ain't no money. We're going to have to figure that out. We can't say, we need to have a speakers bureau, and we can't say to our speakers, oh, and you pay your own way. Right. I mean, if some of them got that kind of money, okay, you know, but that don't look like where we at in this movement. I don't see nobody with, you know, deep pockets. So we have to generate the funding. We're going to have a working group doing that. I've probably missed a few of our working groups. We'll get into that a little bit later, but this is the kind of planning we have to have, because we have to leave here on a mission to make April 14th happen. We have to see that as our responsibility, our charge, that we're not going to let them push this movement back. We're not going to let them suppress it. We're not going to let them stop it, because it is too important. People's lives are at stake. There are a few other things. We can get to those later. I do want to end with this, though, just to get at what is at stake in this. Well, actually, before I do that, one of the things that we have been doing in some cities, and we're going to talk about that, see if we can spread that, is trying to equip some young people with whistles and get going a movement of blowing the whistle on brutal murdering cops. See, some people got their whistles. I forgot mine. I feel a little bit like I'm naked up here. I ain't got no whistle. But this is a way in which people can collectively organize themselves and get some community self-defense going in relation to what the police do. Blowing the whistle, alerting the community, bringing folks out so that it ain't just the person jacked up by the police by themselves or one other person trying to do something about it alone, but you can collectively organize and involve the community. That's something that's going to be important to do. Cop watch, but with the audio component. In addition to, you need the video component, but it just struck me watching Eric Garner be murdered and hearing the people saying, this is messed up. Why are they doing that? You need to go beyond that, because we have to stop tolerating the police murdering our people. We got to do that. Now, I got to wind up here, but since we got started on a poetic tip, I figured I wanted to wind us up on a poetic tip. I'm going to read some lines from Oscar Brown Jr., a piece called The Children of Children. I'm going to excerpt it, but it's hard, it's powerful. The children of children from their mama's lap hop down to the ground to be taken in traps. The children of children trapped by dark skins to stay in and play in a game no one wins. The children of children, while still young and sweet, are all damned and programmed for future defeat. The children of children are trapped by adults who fail them, then jail them to hide the results. The children of children, unable to cope with systems that twist them and rob them of hope. The children of sin and ashamed, keep pairing and bearing and ask, who do you blame? The children of children cry out every day. They beg you for rescue, and what do you say? We have to say that we are building a movement that the children of children can be a part of and need to be a part of, that can bring forward that self-rescue. Because our children have been robbed of hope. They've been programmed for defeat. But we can bring to them hope and a movement that can break through and win. That is our charge today, because bringing forth, getting on a mission and taking up and making a powerful and successful April 14th will be an important step toward answering the cries from our children. And we do have to see this as our children are under attack. It's not somebody else's children or those people's children. These are our children and our future. Because if you want to live in a better world, we cannot stand by and allow this wanton murder of people to go down. Thank you.